Welcome to the Trumpification of Gaza. By now, the global discussion is centered mostly on Trump's plan for transforming Gaza into one of the most beautiful pieces of real estate we possibly can imagine, at least going by his version of it. If nobody else sounds excited and pleased, at least Trump does. And he is never tired of explaining how beautiful Gaza would look after his dream for Gaza is realized. How are we to look at this, particularly from a historical perspective? What sense do we who do not belong to either of the two camps make of this? Do we have something to say on the matter? Or are we supposed to be mere passive onlookers and listeners to whatever is being said and done in this context? The very first thing I want to say in this connection is that there is a little bit of historical sense behind what Trump is saying. By the way, do jump into the conclusion that I'm justifying or I'm out to justify Trump's idea. I have to be out of my senses to do so, but I shall not hesitate to say that there is a little bit of historical context, if not sense. There's a historical context to what he's saying. Let me start by placing before you that historical context. If you look at the history of this region, particularly from 1948, which is when the State of Israel was formed, after a prolonged period of efforts in this direction, going back to the latter half of the 19th century, with leading characters like Theodore Herschel and wise men, so on and so forth. All of us know that as soon as the State of Israel was announced, war broke out. The surrounding Arab nations decided to wipe out the newly formed State of Israel, and almost as a piece of miracle, they did not succeed in their aim. Israel survived that onslaught. Not only that it survived, it actually managed, and this is important for me to mention, it actually managed to enlarge its territory. By 1948, Israel had only about 45% of the land which is geographically identified as Palestine. But after the 1967 war, when another war was in the offing, and Israel, of course, resorted to preemptive action, and that's the famous Six-Day War, which according to some historians is better described as 6-hour war, because Israel devastated the air forces of adjoining countries within the first 6 hours of this war, but the war lasted about 6 days. And you have detailed accounts of this war by several authors. I don't have to give you a reading list on the 1967 Six-Day War. And as a consequence of the Six-Day War, the land in the custody of Israel expanded from 45% to 75%. And then came the 1973 famous war, what's called the Yom Kippur War, which was mainly spearheaded by Egypt and Syria. And Israel beat its adversaries back. And the outcome of that war was that Israel came to possess nearly 100% of the Palestinian territory. Much of that has been returned uh, by virtue of the various accords that has been formulated since then, whether it is the Camp David Accord or the Oslo Accord. Now, the point I am making is a very limited one. The point is that every major military action in this region has witnessed a major change in the geography of this region. And in each one of these military operations, the end result has been that Israel gained substantially in terms of territorial control. Now, in this instance, the declared aim of Israel is not to gain further land, though Israel will be very glad to grab as much land as it can, or is allowed to. But that's not its stated intention. Its stated intention, according to Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, are three. The first of which is that Hamas will be wiped out militarily and administratively. The third of which is that Hamas will never be allowed to have any say in matters pertaining to Gaza. In other words, Hamas will be wiped out. Now, the only way, and that's the point I want to make, the only way this goal of de-Hamasifying, if you like, de-Hamasifying Gaza is what Trump is suggesting. And I don't think this is Trump's brainchild. It is the Jewish brainchild suggested to him, which he very readily and, in my opinion, unwisely adopted as his own. Because from his very limited perspective, this would have seemed a brilliant idea, particularly because of the business nuances in this project, which the Israelis would have played up, being the clever Jews that they are. So, to me, this is the brainchild of the Jewry, the Jewish people, which Trump, in his vanity and his somewhat unhinged state on account of his highly intoxicated state, intoxicated with power, as well as the scope that he found in it of grabbing global attention, which he always wants to keep focused on himself, being the humble human being that he is and being the good Christian that he is. So, the only way the declared goals of Netanyahu, representing the state of Israel, can be realized is by cleansing Gaza of its present occupants and changing its demographic combination, administrative control, economy, culture, etc. In other words, by wiping out Gaza as it has existed till, say, 7th of October 2023, and maybe as it exists even today, which according to Trump is only a demolition site. Now, it's very important. I'll come to this in a short while. It's only a demolition site. Therefore, the people from here would be, or have to be necessarily sent out of Gaza and rehabilitated elsewhere. Now, the question that needs to be asked is, why should Egypt or say Jordan alone bear the brunt? Why not a substantial portion of the people of Gaza be rehabilitated in the United States of America, which has plenty of land? And in fact, just yesterday, the journalist asked Trump if he would foot the bill for implementing his project for Gaza. He said he would not. And he said that there are plenty of people with enough money in this region who will invest. But none of us knows who those people are, and none of them has, if there is any, none of them has revealed any intention or interest in investing in this project. So it's virtually a non-starter. Now, basically, what it means is that America has, without any reservation, with full-throated ease, endorsed Netanyahu's idea that Gaza cannot exist as it has existed so far. And the only way Hamas can be wiped out is by depopulating Gaza or driving the people of the Palestinians from the Gaza Strip and repeopling it, rehabilitating it with somebody else. That's why Trump keeps on saying that anybody can live there, even Palestinians will be allowed to live there. Anybody who can afford can live there. So it will be turned into a classy piece of real estate, and people with money can buy big Rivera apartments according to his dreams. But for the life of me, I can't understand who would want to go and live there. Even if I am offered a Rivera apartment of the classiest descriptions entirely free of cost, I would say, for God's sake, leave me out of the picture. I'm not the one for it. No one in his senses would want to live in Gaza. Not only because it's now devastated and it can never be really restored to its previous geological health. It is absolutely devoid of resources. It cannot support the life of the people living there to any extent, unless, of course, the international community makes a perpetual commitment to feeding whoever lives there. So this is also the reason why I said in a video shared with all of you way back in October 2013 that while the whole world is talking about the two-nation solution, I really don't believe that such a solution exists. It is simply not possible. It is not feasible. And at that time I pointed out that the main reason for this is religion. If there are two main reasons why peace can never settle down, or people of this region can never settle down to living in peace in this region. One is religion and the other is international interference. The religious question I've already dealt with, and I don't believe in repeating myself, therefore let me now make a brief comment on the international interference, and I shall conclude this video. Unfortunately, the people of Gaza are the victims, are the pawns on the international chessboard. On the one hand, Iran wants to play its game using the Palestinians as their proxies. Not only Palestinians, but also people in Lebanon, people in factions in Iraq, Libya, not Libya, Lebanon, so on and so forth, wherever it can spread its tentacles. So the expansionist, imperialist instincts of Iran, on the one hand, and America and other international players, if the people of this region, including the Jews, can be left alone to settle the disputes between themselves, sooner or later this will end. But unfortunately, international interference is keeping this issue boiling. And that's the main reason why nothing has settled down in about 75 years. It is not that this issue cannot settle down. It can settle down. Actually, what history teaches us is that a people or two peoples who are in a state of mutual hatred, tension, conflict, bloodshed, after enduring the bitter consequences of their adventures, will come to sense, and they will realize that the only way to go forward, short of assured mutual elimination, mutual destruction, is living in amity, living in peace. But people of this region, both Jews and Palestinians, are not allowed to do so by interferences from overseas. I'm pretty sure that Israel as a nation would have behaved a lot better, but for the support it's assured to receive from its sponsors and patrons. The reason why Netanyahu talks the language of absolute domination and irreconcilable antagonism, unlimited lust for power, and the insistence that he'll dictate terms to everybody else and he'll take the entire world on his terms, which is obvious from the way he's treating even the United States, United Nations. The way he treats, for example, the United Nations Agency for Refugees in this region, UNRWA, which is now reinforced by America by withdrawing its annual support of $400 million, which means that there will be a massive drip in the volume of support and relief available to the people in Gaza precisely at a time when they needed it most. America, or Trump, it's not America as a whole, it's Trump, by withdrawing this support, the most important, the massive chunk of support from the United Nations agency, makes it certain that the people of Gaza, even though they are now safe from Israeli bombs and rockets and tanks, etc., will not be able to sustain their life. In fact, unless I'm radically wrong, more people could die in the post-war period because of the inhospitable living conditions, inadequate food supply, food, water, electricity supply, than have perished during active war. And the American withdrawal of this $400 million per annum of support to the relief and rehabilitation work, which has gone on for some time, precisely at this most critical moment, is meant to ensure that what Trump is saying is indeed true, that nobody can actually survive in this region. Israel has done its best in making this place unlivable. Any picture of Gaza is good enough to strike chill through your bones. And for America to withdraw its humanitarian support, which it had sustained for a while, for years, now at this time it is needed most, clearly plays into the Israeli policy. So all of this put together makes it very clear that the historical pattern is meant to continue, namely that every major military action in this region has seen a substantial change in the political geography of this region. And Israel has ended up by controlling more and more territory, or to put it differently, ended up in Palestinians losing more and more territory. In the present proposal, Trump's proposal, it is not so evident that the territory thus lost to the Palestinians, the people of Gaza, would immediately go to Israel, though it stands to reason to assume that Israel will exercise total control over this region because there is no effective discontinuity between Israel and the United States of America. They are one and the same, unfortunately, in this region. So, there is a historical context to what Trump is saying, but unfortunately, what Trump does not realize is that history is not written in stone. History is very fluid, it keeps changing, and the circumstances obtained till 1973 are not obtained any longer. It will take Trump a while to realize it. As of now, he is drunk with the heady wine of power, intoxicated with power. Therefore, he thinks that he only has to say something and that will happen. And this is what the exact meaning of playing God. If you look at the account of creation in the first book of the Bible, the book of Genesis, God says, "Let there be," and it was. So it comes to God, between saying and happening, there is no difference. If God said, it happened. So Trump really believes that he is a political god of the world. He only has to say something and it will happen. We have to give Trump a few more days to come to his senses and realize that he is not God. If you remember, I did a video sharing with you what used to happen in Rome and the great Roman generals used to return home after significant military campaigns abroad, they used to go on a triumphal procession in Rome, but in their chariot there would be a person appointed to keep whispering into the ears of the Roman general, "You too are human. You too are human. Don't think that you are God." Because the problem with power is that it induces delusions of divinity in individuals, because they lose a sense of proportion. And in our own country, we had a very brief spell, thank God it was a very brief spell, in which our own Prime Minister succumbed to that delusion. And fortunately, political developments healed him out of that delusion. And we are all appreciative of that. America will take a little while longer, perhaps, because America is that much more powerful. And Trump in particular would take a while longer. But not even Trump is immune to the logic of history. It is rightly said that when God wants to bring a man down, he gives him unlimited power. It takes extraordinary maturity and tremendous spiritual balance to handle power with wisdom and humaneness. But if you don't handle with wisdom, it becomes a dynamite, it becomes a bomb that will blow you apart. And Trump is no exception to that. I don't say this because I have any negative feelings towards Trump. He is nobody to me and I am nobody to him. Therefore, there doesn't need to be any negative feeling. I am simply observing the facts of life, the logic of history. And I ardently believe that none is above the logic of history, because God alone presides over the destiny of humankind. God alone determines the directions and the nuances, the twists and turns of history. And petty politicians who think that they are gods will come to grief sooner than they realize. So, what will happen to Trump's romantic plan for Gaza? Believe you me, it's a non-starter. Just forget about it. If you can't forget about it, well, have good fun at the expense of Trump. You know, there are two English words, comic and cosmic. Comic and cosmic. The difference between the two is only a sibilant S. Remove S from cosmic, you get comic. So at the moment, Trump is in the cosmic mode. Soon the S will go and he will fall into the comic mode. When it happens, you will remember this old man, won't you? Even if you don't remember, how does it matter? Thank you. All the very best.